All right. So yes, I'm Dina, and you might want to put this on speaker view instead of gallery view because I'm actually not going to use a PowerPoint. I am going to share my screen a little bit, but I don't work well with PowerPoints. I read them, and that's really boring to watch somebody read a PowerPoint. So I think, and I had a great time listening to Trevor before, because you have to find something that really works with your teaching style. And I know I'm really bad with PowerPoint, so I do a lot of talking. I also do a lot on an iPad, and I will demonstrate that in just a bit. But before talking about how I do videos or what my videos look like, I want to talk about why. Why do we do videos? So I teach at a community college, and quite frankly, we have to meet our students where they're at. We're not a four-year school where everyone's on campus. Our students might be single parents. They might be working nights. They might be working days and can't get on campus. We have a lot of students who we can only reach with online learning. So that's really why community colleges, I think, are at the forefront of online learning. And we have been for quite some time. I've taught online for well over 10 years. We won't say how much more than 10 years. And I've found different ways as I've been going through things of being engaging and whatnot. But I have to admit, this pandemic has tweaked how I teach online and in the synchronous remote environment. So why? Why is community college students are a different group of students? And classes like differential equations, we usually only teach online in the summertime because that's when we get our not Frederick Community College students. That's when our four-year school students come home for the summer. They want to knock a math class out. So sure, they'll take differential equations online. So we've got two different kinds of groups of students. We have four-year school students who come in and take some of our classes, and then our traditional online classes. We've got a whole department on campus to support online learning, and that's something a lot of four-year schools don't have. Our school is Quality Matters, a Quality Matters school, if you've ever heard of that. I'm a QM reviewer myself. So I've been trained in how to have online classes. But to be honest, that has more to do with how the class is structured, how easy it is to jump into a class and find your way around. It's really not about making videos. So when it comes to my videos, it's all kind of self-taught. So let's talk about what I do. So if I don't do PowerPoints, and I do have a chalkboard behind me, but I don't actually use that often. I use that for office hours. What I do is I use my iPad, and let me go ahead and share my screen now. And all right, so this is a picture of a white-crowned sparrow I took 2 days ago, I believe. This is one of the things that with teaching online, you really need to let your students know who you are, just like they would know you in the classroom. And if it's things like looking at pictures that you took over the weekend, it lets them know you're an actual real person. So what I use is a PC or a Macintosh, and I use a program called Reflector 3, and that makes my computer think it's an Apple TV, or I guess it makes my iPad think that I'm talking to an Apple TV, and it projects it on my screen. And then I'm able to share that screen. If you don't have a setup like this, a simple cell phone on a couple of books hovered over a piece of paper, that also works. And you notice here I have things written out ahead of time. Generally, I don't write things ahead of time because, like Trevor was saying, there's something about the pacing of me writing and students writing that I do think is a very engaging way of doing things. But before I start talking too much about how, let's talk about what kind of things I do. So we now have synchronous remote sessions. So this is like this, me talking, my students in front of me. I'm not really going to talk about this very much because quite honestly, that's not going to happen a lot for most people after the pandemic. Now at our community college, we have found that students actually really like this synchronous remote class. And we're probably going to continue teaching that because students like the online, but they also like a little bit of direct student interaction where you can ask questions and things like that. But I'm not going to spend too much time on that one. Overall, this is unscripted. And a lot of times, hopefully students are in the room. So we also have FERPA issues. So we can't just post this on a public YouTube site because of student privacy. So then let's talk about asynchronous videos. So before the pandemic, I only had one kind of asynchronous video, and that was a lecture. My lectures never, ever, ever showed my face. Turns out that wasn't a good thing. So I am on YouTube. I only have a little over 1,000 subscribers. But what was interesting is, while Trevor was talking, I looked at my analytics. My male to female ratio is actually a little bit better. It's 40% women, 60% men. So that's kind of interesting. I wonder if it has something to do with my demographics. But anyway, I generally had no face, but my voice. And I do have to admit, I have some PowerPoint slides. When do I do PowerPoint slides? Well, almost exactly like when Trevor was doing it. It's for simple and pretty straightforward kinds of videos. Also ones that I might use across different classes. Which ones are that? Like how to use a summation symbol or some trig things where we're using those as review. And I'll answer that question about active writing. Well, actually, I'm actively writing right now. I could, and see, I'm easily distracted. The nice thing about this software, which is Notability, is you can convert things to text, which is very important if you have somebody who's going to need a screen reader. And it also will now do crazy things like if I have the integral of x dx, Notability will also now, after you pay $3, it'll convert it to math, which is really kind of cool. But now I'm digressing. So we'll undo that. Okay, so my lectures are PowerPoints when they're straightforward little videos. When I'm doing more complicated things like differential equations, I tend to use this iPad, and I go through problems and go through a lecture with an iPad. So I have two kinds of lectures, and I do aim for at most 10 minutes for the reasons Trevor was saying, that audience participation drops. I know I stopped listening after 10 minutes. I do some how videos, so the basic mechanics, and then I do separate examples, and I try to make the examples individual so that way I can post them in Blackboard saying, hey, if you're having trouble with this concept, why don't you rewatch this video a couple of times or do this while you're doing your homework. I will also do modeling setups. So I do teach modeling with differential equations. It just is a little bit different. I'll have a setup ahead of time, and then I'll have a post modeling activity video to explain what students experience. I usually wait until after they've turned in their projects to post that video, and that video is usually unlisted. So on my online classes, all lectures are online. However, I do have, as lectures alone are not a good way of teaching. I mean, we don't do that in the classroom. So when I have an online class, I have my video, I have these notes that I wrote on my iPad, I don't have a PowerPoint, but I do have my notes and I upload those to class. I'll have a quiz based on usually the previous week's material. I'll have some interactive Desmos activities. I'll have homework. I have different ways of pacing students through the material, because it isn't just about listening to me talk about differential equations. Let me talk about this other type of video I now do, and these are informal. I do them every week now, and this isn't about getting YouTube subscribers. This isn't something that I'm expecting anybody outside of my class to watch. This is a way of, and let me stop sharing my screen for a moment. These are about letting students know I'm their teacher. I understand their frustration. You know, I looked at quiz number 2 and everybody had trouble with this kind of question. Let me go through it just to make sure everybody gets it. And this is what we're doing this week. And yeah, I know the definition of the Laplace transform is awful and you'll have to do it once for the midterm and probably not again for the rest of your life. But these are the kinds of things that make students feel like I am actually their instructor. It's not just a bunch of videos that they're watching. It's me. It's Professor Yagodich. And I'll even do silly things. And we're talking 2 to 3 minute videos. Each week, I make a separate one for each class. In fact, I was doing that this morning before this session, because my week starts on a Saturday. But they're informal. They usually involve a math t-shirt. Okay, asymptotic high fives. The fun never ends. And if you write that on your quiz this week, you will get a bonus point. Nowhere on my quiz do I write, please write your bonus question answer here. So if you don't watch my videos, you don't know it. And again, we're talking 2 to 3 minutes. Or look at my earrings. Yeah, they're 10-sided die because, yeah, I play Dungeons and Dragons with my brother. Again, let students know you're real. Sometimes my dog will walk in the middle of a video. It's okay. So these types of videos, I usually put unlisted on YouTube because they're not geared for general audience. They're just for my students. It also helps me keep track of how many people have actually watched them. Although usually I can tell based on the who's done the answer key or the bonus points or not. How do I do these videos? So my formal videos, I use Camtasia. I'm very, very edit heavy. I get rid of all my ums. I try to make it as concise as possible. I probably fuss way too much. But I figure once it's out there on YouTube publicly, I just like it to be perfect. Not my little weekly videos. I do not edit them. If something dreadful happens, like, you know, a crash somewhere in the house, I will sometimes just totally restart them, but I don't edit them. I don't make sure I look perfect. In fact, if you look at my YouTube video, let's see if I can share the right screen now. All right. So this is my channel. Yeah, that's me just staring at my the computer screen. Now I do have different playlists. Again, my playlists are more formal. Then I have a couple of bird pictures in there. But my informal videos don't end up on my playlists. They're just again, a 2 to 3 minute video each time. And let's see if this will load. So these are the ones I did this morning. Sometimes it'll be me in a family room. Here I am in my living room. It doesn't matter. Sometimes I'll even sit outside my car and show them my license plate cover, which is some of the digits of pi. Again, at my student evaluations for the fall and the spring, last spring, were things like my students felt like they actually knew me. And if they saw me in a grocery store, they'd recognize me, even with a mask. I don't have to wear masks while doing these videos, but that's important. And that's what I've been hearing from my students that, gosh, I don't even know what my English teacher looks like. So if you're teaching online, letting students know who the heck you are is really important. These weekly videos that I do, I didn't used to do them for my online classes because I didn't think it was that important to show my face to my online students. And I'm wrong. I was wrong, completely and utterly wrong. That's not going away. I might even continue doing these for my face-to-face classes on Saturday, saying, hey, I know I'm going to see you in class Monday, but you know, over the weekend, this is what you could be working on. Again, anything to link us to our students. So what are we going to do when we're post-pandemic? Well, as I said, the online classes will still be online classes, but I'm going to make sure I have more of me in them and my personality. Even silly things like I use Bitmojis now when I send out announcements, and me saying things like, yay, it's Friday. But the student evaluations indicate that it matters. It really does matter. So Camtasia doesn't have to be Camtasia. You can do different things like you can use Zoom to record. You can use Blackboard Collaborate. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be super polished. You just have to let your students get to know you and hopefully be clear when you're explaining the lecture videos and the examples. But I think kind of keeping them separate is not a bad idea. So I think I have like 3 minutes left. So does anybody have questions on how I do things or why I do things or anything like that?
I'm also curious how you approach the assessment question.
So I don't really change assessments based on online classes versus face-to-face classes. Now, I'm putting aside all the fact that we can't have proctored exams right now. Normally, my online classes, people would come in for proctored exams. Quizzes, I always have open book, open note, because the point of quizzes is to make sure they're watching the videos, that they're getting the material together before the exams. And even when I do face-to-face classes, my quizzes start off as quizzes, and then pretty soon they start becoming open neighbor quizzes, which means you can work with the people on your table, and then pretty soon it's open classroom. But the point for me for quizzes is to give them a last chance to make sure it's all in their brain before they get to the exam. And thanks for that. I do love teaching online. I try to teach one online class a semester in normal environments. In the fall, I've actually volunteered to teach synchronous remote, but I still do like having students. But what it's made me realize is what makes me successful in my physical classroom is the fact that students get to know me, and I never pieced that out and never really gave myself a chance to think about what is it about me in the classroom that works. Well, students get to know me and know that, you know, I make mistakes and I'm not perfect. And yeah, I play Dungeons and Dragons and I have a lot of math geeky t-shirts. And we have to be able to translate that to the online environment because it makes it a more friendly and a little bit less scary environment. So am I using an Apple Pencil? Yes, this is I tell my students my $100 pencil. I had an iPad before I had the hard tip pencil. I hate using the squishy stylus. This, I have to admit, this has totally changed how I teach, because when I teach face-to-face, guess what? I still use this. I just instead project it through Apple TV on the whiteboard. And again, my notes I capture and I put up on Blackboard. So even my face-to-face classes. So my methodology hasn't actually changed that much for with the pandemic, which is kind of interesting. Did I miss any questions?
I think there was one on the tools you use. Are they paid for by your institution?
Yes, and so all the people in the math department do have an iPad and a pencil. Mine's a huge one because I was one of the first beta testers. Most of us have smaller ones. This is a little actually unwieldy, but we are lucky that our school does fund things like this. But if they tomorrow said, you know what, we need that iPad back, I would actually probably buy one. But if you don't have an iPad, again, use your cell phone and hover it over a piece of paper, it does work. And for my informal videos, sometimes I use my iPad. I sometimes have to justify why I bought an expensive camera, and I'll put that on a tripod, or just my iPad camera holding it out like a selfie. So you don't need to have super fancy equipment.
What was it again that you used to pretend that it's an Apple TV?
It's called Reflector. I think it's version 3. It's made by, oh, I can't remember. It's $18. I'll type it in the, yep, there we go. So yeah, Reflector 3. It's an $18 product. Notability that I'm using on the iPad is, I believe, $5. But then if you start getting some of the handwriting recognition, it adds up a little bit. But it's a great, great tool.
Yeah, I use your setup, except I didn't know about the Reflector 3. So
yes,
thank you very much.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's pretty inexpensive, which is nice too. That's a one-time cost. It's not monthly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Where do you buy this stuff? Where do you buy these reflector? And...
That, if you Google Reflector 3, you can. It's completely online. Let's see. Reflector 3. Yeah, it's screen mirroring, and I'll put. It's made by Air Squirrels, which is a great name for a company. But the link is right there.
Yes.
So I think we're about out of time, but I'm assuming Dina will be around if people have more questions. And I'm assuming both of our speakers will be. So thanks to both of you for great talks. And then I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the conference.
Thank you, both speakers. Excellent talks.
Thanks. And so I'll ask Trevor, is that a green screen behind you?
It is, yeah. That's where I sit in front of for the videos, yeah. It does make my Zoom setup look a little weird, but
yeah, this is, well, and it's funny because this almost looks like a math office, doesn't it? But I'm actually in my sewing room, which is right off of my bedroom. So it's like this tiny little corner looks like it's professional.
I thought about getting a chalkboard to put it up, depending on how long it went. If our universities decided to be online in the fall, which I don't think will happen, but if it did, then maybe I would go and get a big chalkboard like you have.
Yeah, yeah. I for office hours, I absolutely love it. It's there's something, and I even have the fancy chalk, but because this is what we use in the classroom.
Oh, is that the full touch one that you just
yes.
Oh, very fancy. Okay.
Yes, I'm a little geeky with that. But in our classrooms, we have chalkboards everywhere, and just the one whiteboard. So that's something I really miss about being in the classroom.
If anybody is interested, behind me, then I went to Home Depot and buy a plain white panel board. I just stick it up on my wall, and I use just normal whiteboard markers and so on. It works very well for me.
Awesome.
I love how it fills the entirety of your frame. Your camera and whiteboard setup is completely perfect.
It is.
I actually got the camera as a Christmas gift from my daughter. So that came in handy, you know.
Oh, and somebody just said in the chat that somebody bought a whiteboard on wheels. We actually, some of our adjuncts, and it's interesting because we have quite a few adjuncts at a community college, and some of them who have been like very anti-online have jumped in and just, I mean, done amazing things. And they've bought like rolly whiteboards that they can flip over, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, if we were doing this for longer, I might get a rolly chalkboard, but hopefully by the fall we'll be back in the classroom.
I know there's one guy on YouTube in the math space that his name is Flammable Math. I don't know, he just sort of makes not videos for like a class, but just sort of fun little math videos, I suppose.
Right.
And he's got the double stacked chalkboard that you can slide up or down. So all of his videos are just in front of that. And I thought that would be so much fun to have one of those.
Oh, that would be. I wanted those in the classroom to be.
I want to, yeah, exactly, right?
The big thick chalk that, yeah. Back in the day.
Looks like MIT.
Yes, yeah, no, that's, I didn't go to MIT, but our school had those as well. But
Yeah.
Well, I guess many years ago, the Gilbert Sprang's linear algebra from MIT.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Those, right?
Yes. Well, the big chalk is what made me.
And the big chalk. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. I distinctly did not go to my linear algebra as an undergraduate. I watched the MIT ones.
Really? Yeah.
They were ahead of the times, I guess.
Yeah. Well, actually, there was no YouTube. There was no internet. Actually, when I was in linear algebra. So I guess I'm suddenly feeling kind of old.
So
both
Jeff,
of you
I
guys,
found
Dina and Trevor, you are really doing. Dina, your energy and your welcomeness, your kind of inviting that really came through. And
thank you. It's exhausting.
Yes. Yeah, you're doing a fantastic job. And Trevor, I mean, you're really. I've watched a lot of your videos.
Oh, thank you.
They're excellent. I'm recommending them to my discrete math and to my linear algebra.
Oh,
students.
wonderful. Okay, I'm so glad.
Yeah. Right. They're terrific. I mean, so yeah, thank you.
Great videos.
You're making the education like easier for all of us, right?
Well, that's the one person mentioned that you can create, but you can also curate, and both of those are really valuable strategies.
Yep.
And in some sense, the curation almost makes, or at least to include that as a component, it makes a lot of sense in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff asked about getting analytics. So within, when you have a YouTube channel, there is an analytics component, and you can go into those analytics. It will tell you all sorts of statistics. So that's where I found out that gender thing, which was really interesting. I was really happy to hear that Dina had a better ratio. Yes. I did.
Yeah, and actually,
I was looking it up. I saw that. 1 second. I've lost it. 76% of males and 68% of females claim that they watch YouTube regularly in the United States. So there's a slight gender bias, but the creator probably dominates.
Right. Well, so I'll share my screen so you can see exactly where you get that if you have a YouTube channel. So if you're in your general channel, and I forget what you click on, I think just your channel. On the left-hand side should have, let's see. Oh, this is actually not the right. I want to be in YouTube Studio.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm assuming that there's not people who are coming in this room after us because it's just another virtual Zoom room. So this is unlike face-to-face where we could just stay here for as long as we wanted to. So here, if you go to analytics on the left-hand side, it will do a really nice breakdown of so your reach, engagement, and audience was where you look at who your viewers are. Let's see, so here's age and gender, and this is for the past 28 days, or you can change it to, last year or all time. So yeah, so my numbers seem to be pretty steady, 40%, 60%. And they seem to watch just about the same length of time. Again, I skew 18 to 24, but I find this interesting that it's more older men watching than older, and I don't want to think that 25 to 34 is older by any stretch. But yeah, so it's really interesting to see what kind of data is available out there. Of course, it also makes you wonder how much data is being collected on all of this stuff. But again, you can see the average view duration, watch time, and all of that. So again, my videos aren't as focused on general audience, but I do make the lecture videos public. The things that some people find interesting to watch are not ones that I would have expected. Like again, the summation, my best video in terms of number of recent views is how to figure out to use the summation symbol, which I did not think was a difficult thing, but maybe there are no good YouTube videos on there. So,
you know, Dina, I've noticed that I have the exact same thing. A few videos just do like way better than everything else.
yeah.
And I think what it is I noticed, so for me, Bayes' theorem, for whatever reason, if you go into incognito mode on your browser so they don't know you and type in Bayes' theorem, I'm probably the first result that you will get, or first or second. Right? That's why it does. So probably what happens is that for whatever reason, people who type summation watch a lot of your video on that summation. And so YouTube is putting it right up at the top there in the search
Interesting.
results. And so it always just gets it. Whereas the long tail of videos that don't get ranked this way just don't do
Right.
anything.
Right. No, it's kind of interesting. And let's see, for me, I didn't write my channel on there, but it's
Oh, yeah. I found it by Googling.
yeah, youtube.com/, and I got to once you have over 1,000, you can have a reasonable name for a YouTube channel. And I hit 1,000 in class in the spring because once we had switched to remote, I had pulled up my differential equations videos, and a student was like, "I just got to be your 1,000th subscriber." So it was very exciting. All right, are there any other questions? Because I know there's other places we should all be the next session starts in 3 minutes, so.
There's one thing. Well, Dina, I am your Maryland neighbor. I am at BCCC. So
Where are you at?
BCCC, Baltimore City.
Oh, okay. Yes, you are my neighbor.
So I was just wondering if you would be open to my emailing you if I have any questions.
Oh, yes, happy to do so. So here's my email. Yeah, one of my daughters goes to UMBC, so yeah, we're up in that area.
And Trevor, it was very good seeing you live, man. I've looked at a couple of your videos, man. You're a legend online, man. A YouTube legend.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Nice to see you.
Makes me feel always awkward when people say this, but I do appreciate it.
Nah, don't feel awkward, man. You know, I've picked up quite a number of hints from looking at your videos and so on and so on, and you know, how to present material, you know, that I found was better than the way I was presenting it. You know? So I have to admit I've stolen a couple ideas from you looking at your videos.
I don't know if Dina, if you feel this way, but have you felt that your like voice, like the way you talk, has when you go and present like in the classroom, I'm now like, do I sound a little bit more like I'm worried that I've been infected by myself?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because like if I'm in a normal meeting, I don't use my lecture voice.
Yeah, right.
But we were working with another college for recruitment, and it was a recorded session. And I was talking clearly, and you know, everything else, and everybody else was talking in their meeting voice. And they said, well, we're going to have a trouble with the closed captioning, the automatic closed captioning, because Dina was the only one who was speaking loudly and distinctly. And that's another piece of it, is we've got to be very careful with all of our videos have to be closed captioned, which is really why YouTube is so wonderful, because they'll do the automatic closed captioning. And now it's much easier to edit the closed captioning. Because you can edit it as a text and paste it into Word and edit it there and paste it back, which is awesome. So for ADA compliance, YouTube really helps us out a lot, especially for synchronous sessions, which, you know, with our students and whatnot. But it helps if you speak, you know, it's my kids call it my Professor Yagodich voice.